Hey lads, a guy in the Ladbrokes app is keen on a roughie in race 7.
Do we trust him?
Well, his name is Peter Moody.
Say no more.
Connect with racing experts and like-minded punters in Ladbrokes Mates Mode. T's and C's apply and available on website. You win some, you lose more.
And now, as advertised, Steve Summers here. Steve Summers here, and you there.
Schmoozing for a few minutes.
In the schmooze room.
There's only one thing I want to say before I get into the monologue, and that is this. It is good to be king. And that's what the New York Knickerbockers were last Saturday. And welcome to podcast number 4. Hopefully a podcast that will be as iconic as ironic, with Steve Summers here and you there and Paulie Rosenberg on the other side of the glass. The New York Knickerbockers, they torpedoed the Detroit Pistons on this past Saturday. Only for the Pistons, only a tariff on the franchise would have been worse. The city of Detroit is now thinking of deporting the team. And Piston fans, they're going to have to throw tomatoes at the team because, let's face it, eggs are so expensive. And what you had to buy with eggs, you had to be using, of course, on Easter Sunday. The New York Knickerbockers with 21 straight points. Again, 21 straight points in the fourth quarter, and always in an NBA playoff game. How big is what you do or don't do in the fourth quarter? And Cameron Payne, we were all roaring or screaming, as some might say. I'm watching a game at home. I am roaring, much like the MGM lion at the beginning of those MGM movies. The Pistons and the Knickerbocker defense going 441 without a basket in that fourth quarter, and almost as many turnovers in the game as points for Detroit, including 8 turnovers in that fourth quarter. They completely unravel. The Knickerbockers destroying, dismantling, disgracing, devastating Detroit, leaving them in ruins.
I want you to know we heard you. We heard you loud and clear. That's what this is about. It's about the American comeback.
Fans came out today. They supported us. We wanted to be able to throw the first punch. So good job today by our team.
Brunson left open in the corner. Hits the three.
Good effort by Hart, giving his roommate a second opportunity with the 3-ball.
Rebound Hart. Out to Payne. 3 for the tie. He got it. Brunson got fouled. And he dropped it in. What a play from Jalen Brunson.
Did you expect anything less? You expect anything less from the most clutch player in the NBA? This is what he does. So, cap is cap.
He sees a country that is ready for a comeback.
Brunson out to Payne. He'll step into a 3. Got it. 13-0 Knick run. Towns another rebound.
Towns ubiquity igniting the Knicks now.
Hart got another one. 21-0 run.
I mean, we were just locked in. We got stops and translated them to points. So we got OG, we got Kale, we got Josh, obviously Cap. You get them in the open court, it's good for us.
Be the comeback kid.
Towns into Hart, has room, and he scores. Knicks by 10.
That's the challenge, and when we have to take a look at the film, obviously there's things that we're going to have to do a lot better. It's one win, and then we got to reset and get ready for the next one.
We got to find a way to figure things out and just keep battling. I mean, it turned rather quickly. It was a quick turnaround, and just happy with the way we played that fourth.
And in the end, it was the defense that made the difference for the Knicks, and they come away with a statement victory in Game 1, 123-112, to take an early series lead on the Pistons.
Make a comeback here in New York City. New York City. New York.
You got to remember all of what was said, what was written before this series with Detroit got itself underway. All of the caution with the Knickerbockers before this series. They had lost 10 straight to the 3 elite teams, Boston and Cleveland, Oklahoma, and were only 15-13 versus winning teams during the regular season. Well, after Saturday, raise your hand if the New York Knickerbockers did not look like a team to beat instead of a beaten team against the NBA's better teams. Yes, it wasn't Boston or Cleveland or Oklahoma, but the Pistons did take 3 out of 4 from the Knickerbockers during the regular season thanks to Cade Cunningham and company. Well, how did Cade do on Saturday? Thanks to Anunoby and his defense and some others also taking up that task, Cade was to fade. He did not have a good game. There were 15 lead changes in this game, with Anunoby in the first half continuing to be aggressive offensively, discovering that part of his game when Brunson was out for those 15 games. Remember, with Brunson on the floor, Anunoby averaged 17 a game. Without him, 23 a game, and we saw from Anunoby not only the offense, but the suffocating and stifling defense on Cunningham. And again, there were a number of Knickerbockers taking their turn with playing defense against Cunningham. And he, of course, Detroit's best player. He averaged over 30 a game in the 4 games Detroit had with the Knickerbockers. But as we saw with the block and the steals, we saw Hart, although he had himself in foul trouble with 3 fouls like seconds into the game, it seemed. But with Hart and with Towns, who did not score a point in the first quarter and really came alive, as did Hart, Anunoby was quiet offensively in the second half. But it was all about that fourth quarter. Again, it was Harris and Beasley for Detroit, keeping Detroit up to snuff. And the Knickerbockers were getting themselves warmed up, especially Brunson, who started the game 3 for 13, but was 9 for 14 in the second half. And you don't forget how quiet you were, how quiet all Knickerbocker fans were at the Garden when in the third quarter, Brunson went down tweaking the ankle. He leaves the game, goes to the locker room, changes sneakers, and comes back and was on fire. Again, the slow start followed by 9 for 13 in the second half and making such a difference along with Cameron Payne. Who, what, when, where, and why? Cameron Payne with those 3 threes and tying the game with one of those threes, coming up with 11 of his 14 points in that fourth quarter. The Knickerbockers came together, showed their experience against an unraveling Detroit team. Now it is time to say something about the first place New York Metropolitans. They have been on fire, offense, defense, and yes, they do have a lapse every now and then, but they can recover very gracefully from any miscue, any mistake they make. And they are in first place and may be staying there for quite a while. I know Philadelphia is not far behind. You always are going to be concerned a little bit with Atlanta, even though they're off to a terrible start, and nobody is upset about that. But what if you have never heard of Griffin Canning? So what if Acuna overslid third base? So what if Soto was this past week 3 for 31 at one point? And so what if Lindor was caught in a rundown between first and second when he was coaching on the field and waving Taylor in to score before Lindor was out in that rundown? And so what if Brazoban gave up a tying home run in the 9th inning? Well, don't forget Monday when Acuna He was 2 for 3 with a double, a walk, a stolen base, a bunt single, and 2 runs scored when the Metropolitans beat the Twins, making it at the time 9 of 11. And don't forget Soto's RBI single on Saturday and his 2-run double on Sunday. He is warming up like the weather. And don't forget, Brazoban is capable of doing what he did earlier in the week. 9 pitches and 3 outs, game over. On Sunday, were you concerned with Nimmo taking a home run away from Walker? Of course not. And how about his RBI giving the Metropolitans a 4-3 lead? He too coming around. Now a word or two about the New York Yankees. Now, I know some of you are going to think on that very controversial play on Sunday with Fried that it would have been a hit even if Goldschmidt had fielded the ball cleanly because of the speed of the runner. Well, I think it should have been called an error, which it was originally, and then innings later in the 8th inning, this all took place in the 6th inning, and then in the 8th inning, they change it to a hit as Fried, just unbelievably great for the Yankees so far this year. The ERA well under 2. He is just perplexing and mystifying American League hitters this early in the season. But I thought it should have been really an error on Goldschmidt. And then we could only assume the runner was going to be safe at first base for an infield hit. We don't know if that would have been the case, would have been close. That's for sure. But we do know for sure that Goldschmidt really had every opportunity, and he's a platinum gold glove winner, the whole thing already with the defense. That to me was an error that we knew and saw. We don't know about the infield hit, although Paulie Rosenberg, my better half on the other side of the glass, thinks it should have been recorded a base hit then, breaking up the no-hitter that Fried had going for him. The starters outside of Fried, they don't give you length, but the pen certainly gives you hope. Leiter, Cruz, Weaver, and you'll forget Devin Williams from a Saturday, and Gomez as well when Tampa Bay came back last weekend for that 10-8 win, the Yankees blowing a 6-1 lead in that game. And Devin Williams has been an issue. He's been up, but not too many ups, more downs so far for Devin Williams with the Yankees. You want Chisholm to have the same hellfire and brimstone against opponents as he does against umpires. You want Ben Rice to keep cooking when he's healthy. You want Dominguez to keep doing things that earns your trust. He's looking more comfortable in left field and looks very comfortable in the batter's box. You don't want Rodon to last less than 5 innings and give up home runs. And you don't want Carrasco going any innings. And maybe you feel the same way about Marcus Stroman. Maybe the cortisone shot that he got would be more for his arm instead of his knee. And you don't want to see Cruz or Weaver or Hill to have 3 bullpen standouts worn out by the end of June. The Yankees, they have issues, of course, as you know, with their rotation. Schmidt is back, but not Cole for the season, or Heel right now. So come the deadline, you know, I know, we all know the Yankees are going to need another starting pitcher. Now a word about American history and a very, very heroic American. On Tuesday, April 15, we remembered Jackie Robinson, an American hero, an American pioneer, an American with courage and grace and bravery and toughness. And yet, if Robinson were around today, he wouldn't be around. He'd have DEI on the back of his jersey, since that policy would never allow Branch Rickey and the Dodgers to sign him. As you may know, the Department of Defense, it removed all things Jackie Robinson from their website, ignoring his place in American history because of his color and being a civil rights activist. Because of the outrage, real, genuine, bona fide outrage over this removal, the Department of Defense restored American history and returned Jackie Robinson to his standing from college, in the military, his place in baseball, breaking the color barrier 78 years ago, and his role model position, and of course he was a civil rights human being, humanitarian. When the Department of Defense restored all things Robinson, they didn't apologize. No, they did not. Instead, they offered an explanation, saying he was, in so many words, a very good baseball player. What is that all about? What, Jackie Robinson was a great American because he could steal a base or basically lay down a sacrifice bunt? His race, his color, had nothing to do with his courage to stand tall amid racism, bigotry, and hate, and, of course, including death threats as well. He endured a lifetime of abuse and restrictions because of his race, and yet today, were Branch Rickey to sign Jackie, he probably would be fired. The Dodgers fined and may be forced to sell for violating DEI policy. On Tuesday, we remembered Jackie and saw everybody wear the number 42, now retired. Now let's bring in the better half of this podcast, Mr. Paulie Rosenberg from the other side of the glass. As you know, Paulie, producer, director, unit production manager, choreographer, and makeup man for this podcast. Paulie, how you doing?
Oh, Steve, you are very kind. You are, in fact, too kind with that wonderful introduction. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and you are all of those things.
I appreciate that. How was your week?
The week was good. No problem with that. We see the 95, soon-to-be 96-year-old mother-in-law, and we schlep Robin, the hawker from Hackensack. We schlep her around because of her fractured knee. So we're always a little bit on the busy side. And, of course, we want to hope that those celebrating Passover, the Festival of Freedom, had a good Passover, a good Seder, the whole thing, as I had to go and see the in-laws over in Connecticut. And so that's how we spent the Seder. And I hope you, too, had some good tidings and some good times with Passover as well this past week.
I did. Thank you very much, Steve, for that.
Yes.
Since you were last on, the Rangers decided to fire head coach Peter Laviolette, and a lot of Rangers fans are frustrated that Chris Drury is going to pick his third coach in 5 years. So tell me what you think about the Rangers, about the direction, and all of that.
Well, that is really, a major question mark because, as you have pointed out on more than one occasion, is Drury going to be around to select the next head coach? But he is very close to Dolan. And Dolan is a fan of Drury, and Ranger fans probably would not miss Drury because the track record up to right now is not very good. And so disappointing and disheartening were the Rangers this past season. But as you allude to, no surprise at all that Laviolette was let go. He had certainly no solutions to the issues and the problems and the concerns that plagued the Rangers in this season following the President's Trophy winning season from the year before. So Laviolette had to go, and I'm not unhappy that he was. I'm not happy that he was even hired, a former Icelander coach that he was.
Right, and I think a lot of Rangers fans need to realize that I don't know if this team is one coach away. This same core, for the most part, I think is probably going to come back. Maybe they trade Kreider. We'll see what happens with Mika and the situation with Artemi Panarin. We'll see if anything comes of that. But this team isn't just, you don't just plop a coach behind the bench and this team is going to get back to the playoffs. There's a lot that needs to go into retooling this team, and I think Rangers fans have to be aware of that, right?
Yeah, and they need really, I don't know if Tortorella might be coming back. That's been rumorized. They would be blocking a lot of shots and be a little bit tighter defensively. The Rangers are just in so many phases of the game. The only thing they could win most of this season were face-offs.
And who knew, by the way, that you are now a Rangers expert? I heard that you went on a Rangers podcast called the Blue Shirts Breakaway to break down the Rangers season.
Well, it was. It was fun being on the podcast and quite an honor. Make no mistake about that. And again, I think what I was saying is what everybody has been saying, not only since the season ended, but during the course of the season when you saw so many breakdowns. The Rangers, as we all know, it seemed had a better chance scoring shorthanded than when they were at a man advantage.
It's a busy time for the Garden, obviously, with the Rangers firing Laviolette and the Knicks surviving that first game against the Pistons on Saturday night. The Pistons are going to be pesky. Despite what happened on Saturday, they know how to play them. I think they're a very young team, but right. I think they almost needed to get their asses kicked in that fourth quarter, per se, to kind of wake them up a little bit and kind of realize, okay, we know where we are. We're at the Garden. We're at the Mecca. We know we can play with these guys. We played with them for 3 quarters. Let's see if they can build on that, and we'll see if the Knicks just want to obviously squash them down, get up 2-0, heading back to the Motor City.
Yeah, it looked like at the very beginning of that 21 consecutive point run by the Knickerbockers, just absolutely incredible, and with Cameron Payne inflicting pain on the Detroit Pistons. It looked so easy. It looked as though the Pistons had just given up once the momentum was to change in that fourth quarter. That was an incredible display of basketball at both ends of the floor by the New York Knickerbockers. Brunson woke up in the second half, especially in that fourth quarter, but everybody did. Anunoby in the first half with 19 of his 23 was keeping the Knickerbockers afloat, as you know. And for Detroit, Cade Cunningham was completely suffocated. Anunoby and other Knickerbockers too, just all over him defensively. And here's a guy, as we alluded to earlier in the podcast, about Cade Cunningham averaging 31 a game in the 4 games the Pistons had with the Knickerbockers. He was completely shut down.
The Pistons looked like a JV team in the fourth quarter.
They
didn't know what hit them. And Bickerstaff tried. He called the timeout. And out of the timeout, it's another 5-0 or 8-0 run. They looked absolutely lost.
Yeah. And can you believe this Cameron Payne?
The streets are saying that it was the Cam Payne game. That's what the streets are telling me, Steve.
Yes.
Is that it was the Cameron Payne game. tremendous job off the bench. There's nothing more I could say about it. Like everyone listening to our voices right now, they saw the highlights. They know what happened. An incredible effort.
Yeah, and with Beasley and Harris taking over for Cade Cunningham, they were just super for 3 quarters in the basketball game. But then the turnovers, they had, the Pistons had 21, 22 turnovers in the game, 8 of them in the fourth quarter that allowed the Knickerbockers to capitalize off those 8 turnovers with 17 points.
Yeah, and I think, again, we both agree that the Knicks are probably going to win the series. Do they win it in 5? Do the Pistons get it to 6? We'll see.
Sure.
And then again, we move on to that big second round, third round matchups, and what is the ceiling of this Knicks team? And if it doesn't go well, do they change the core? Do they change the leadership, et cetera, et cetera? But we can get to that, down the line on the Schmooze podcast.
Oh, yeah. And it's already been successful. Of course, Game 1 is not the entire story, but it does set a tone, and it does let all of us know that the Knickerbockers are very capable of running a good team off the floor, especially when good teams had the Knickerbockers struggling throughout the season, never mind about the top 3 elite, and even losing a 4-game series during the regular season to the Pistons 3-1. But when the Knickerbockers are healthy and when they are fulfilling the expectations and also doing what they're capable of doing, they can run you off the floor, as we saw. And you're right. I mean, dismantled was Detroit in stunned disbelief, if I may borrow that expression, and they were certainly that. And the bottom line is, no, they'll play better basketball, but they better play better basketball in the fourth quarter, where it really matters more than anything else in the playoffs.
Fair point. Are you surprised with the reaction and the negative reaction for Juan Soto so far? With the slow start,
no,
and everyone really...
No.
Okay.
No, and he was, 3 for 31 earlier in the week, but he's warming up a little bit, as we saw this past weekend against St. Louis. He is a tremendous player, and everybody that you can name who has ever played baseball in New York has been booed, whether it's Don Mattingly, whether it was Babe Ruth, whether it was Derek Jeter, whether it was Mike Piazza. You can name a man. Lindor was certainly booed when he started. So it's very common, and Soto understands he's his own worst critic, but he is making better contact. He's getting some hits, obviously, with the home runs and the power. That is yet to come. But I don't worry about Soto, and we have seen already what Lindor and Soto and Alonso can do in the middle part of that lineup. And look at what some of the others have done, and Torrens has been terrific. Everybody misses Alvarez because of the power, but Torrens is better defensively, and he has come up with some big hits. Make no mistake about that. So some of the role players have come through for the Metropolitans, and you don't worry about Soto.
Right, I wouldn't either. We know what kind of hitter Soto is. The guy's already a Hall of Famer. I think Mets fans who expected Soto in the first 20 games to hit 400 and have 15 home runs and 25 RBIs, they're crazy.
Yeah.
The expectations are higher, I understand, for this type of player. But Juan Soto isn't going to be hitting 200 the rest of the season.
Oh, no.
Pete Alonso is not going to be this good the whole season. Mm-hmm. He's never been this good the whole season before. It's great that he's doing this well now. He is not going to be performing to this high of a level the rest of the season, right? Everything will even out. Mets fans just need to relax and calm down.
Oh, yeah. And they are capable of winning the division. And you would like to think, health notwithstanding here, that they could go deep into the postseason. But they are the Mets, and we know things happen. And you are right about Alonso. He's not going to be hitting the way he's been hitting so far this season. He has a different approach, and he feels more comfortable at the plate. He's okay defensively. He's a right-handed first baseman, but and not the most athletic and not with the most speed. But he's not there to be the athlete. He's not there to be the pinch runner. He's there to provide some power and RBIs, and so far so good. Yes, the Mets have had some detours. The Mets have had some miscues, some ugly moments, but they have overcome all of that so far so early in the season and have earned their first place standing in the division.
Now, on the subject of the Mets, on Thursday night, your name was invoked by the great Gary Cohen on SNY.
Was it good?
It was good.
Okay.
I am going to play what Gary Cohen said, and then you will tell us the actual story behind it.
Okay.
First, the wonderful words of Gary Cohen.
You know the Steve Summers story, right? Steve had Darryl Strawberry on as a guest one night, and Steve's intro, you know how he would do the great introduction about Darryl Strawberry and all of his accomplishments. He went on for 2 minutes, and when he finally stopped talking, Darryl had left. Hung up the phone.
Again, Steve Gelbs was going to interview Darryl Strawberry in the stands. There was technical difficulties. That is the background for why Gary Cohen brought up your name.
Well, Gary Cohen, his memory is to die for to begin with. He and Howie Rose, both of them, only elephants may have better memories than those two, and especially when it comes with the Mets. I'm really amazed that Gary Cohen, he got some of that right. First of all, it happened with me on the air in either the summer of '87, the first year of WFAN, or the summer of '88, with Darryl Strawberry and the Mets on the road in St. Louis. Now, before Darryl was even on WFAN with me for the interview, I had gone at least 2 minutes by introducing Darryl. And I'll say again, I knew Darryl way back when he was in high school, and I was working at KNBC with Brian Gumbel, who was the Monday through Friday sportscaster on the news at the time, a rising star with NBC. I was the weekend sportscaster at Channel 4 in Hollywood, and had gone to cover Darryl Strawberry as a high school baseball player after Sports Illustrated at the time had referred to him as a black Ted Williams. So with a camera crew, we went one day to see Darryl Strawberry play high school baseball and to interview him, which we did. In fact, part of that interview was on the 30-30, is it, with Doc Gooden?
34-30.
34-30 with Doc Gooden and Darryl Strawberry. And they showed a little bit of that interview that I had with Darryl when he was in high school. And that day that we showed up, Darryl, in the first inning, came up with the bases loaded, and what do you think he did? He hit a grand slam. So I got to know Darryl a little bit from that, and of course, as a New York Metropolitan, got to know him a little bit as well, and well enough to call his hotel where the Mets were staying in St. Louis. Now, the 2 minutes of introduction was before Darryl was actually on the air with me. Once we got Darryl, and he answered the phone in his room We called the hotel where the Mets were staying. Darryl right away answered the phone. Now you'd have to go through PR. You'd have to go through all this red tape to get an interview with a ball player on the road. They are basically protected from the media, generally speaking, to begin with, home and away. But nonetheless, I get Darryl Strawberry and had done the introduction before he comes on the air. So they ring his hotel room in St. Louis. Darryl comes on, and here is what took place. I was sort of intimidated, even though I had known Darryl since high school. And I went on and on and on trying to formulate a question. And it wasn't 2 minutes before Darryl hung up on me. It was at least 10 minutes. I'm going on and on and on, and I just couldn't come to an end of what I was doing, which was trying to get to a question to ask him. And I never got to that question as I rambled and stumbled and fumbled on and on and on for about 10 minutes. And Darryl said, I can't take any of this. And he hung up on me. And everybody that was listening, including those people at the station, WFAN, of course, everybody thought it was a bit. Everybody thought that I did that on purpose. I didn't do that on purpose. I was a total idiot. And it was the longest diatribe. It was the longest non-question in the history of radio. And I was absolutely embarrassed. And Darryl just hung up on me, and he knew who I was since high school. So that's what happened to clear it up. But Gary Cohen, and what a memory that he remembers for the most part what really happened, because the real punchline to this story is how long it took me to get to a question I never got to, and Darryl just knowing me, hanging up on me, and that was the end of it.
So you went for 10 straight minutes without Darryl interrupting you.
No.
Trying to ask a question, and you never got there.
That's it. I couldn't get, I don't know what happened to me, because, I had done interviews before, and I knew Darryl since high school. And here it was where I get him in the hotel room. He had a cold. He was not in the lineup as the Metropolitans were taking on St. Louis. And the bottom line is I just couldn't get to a question. I should have just said, how you feeling? When do you expect to get back into the lineup? What's going on that way? But I couldn't even think of that. I was like frozen. I was just stifled by my own rambling and stumbling and fumbling, trying to do an interview with somebody I had known since high school.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Well, no, you know me. Maybe it isn't so unbelievable.
It's unbelievable that you remembered that Gary remembered that, and we now have a clearer picture of what happened with the phone call between you and Darryl Strawberry in the summer of 87 or 88, whenever that was.
Yeah, and people thought it was planned as a joke, that it was some kind of bit, and I certainly had my share of bits over the 35 years with WFAN. Bottom line is it wasn't a bit. It was actually me just not being good with Darryl Strawberry on the radio. And I look back on it now, and I don't allow anyone to think it was a bit. It wasn't. What's funny about it is that it was me not doing the job.
One more old story I want to ask you about, and then we are going to get to the email questions, and we do have email questions, which you can reach us at mehereyouThere660 @gmail.com.
Okay, very good.
Earlier tonight, I showed you a video that was forwarded to me on X, and it is a video of you in an Atlanta Flames jersey skating with the team and doing some sort of some sort of television story of you skating with the Atlanta Flames. Do you have any memory of this at all?
Well, excuse me, nothing to cough about. The bottom line is that in those days, I worked in Atlanta TV, WXIA 11 Alive. I'm more known for my time in Atlanta trying to jump a motorcycle over the goalpost at Atlanta Fulton County Stadium in the summer of 1977. It was in the 70s that I went from Sacramento to Atlanta. I thought that would get me in better position to come to New York. It was not, actually, but nonetheless, I left the amber waves of grain of Sacramento and went to Atlanta. And in those days, in the mid to late 70s, everybody that was a local sportscaster was imitating George Plimpton, the paper lion, where here was this very stoic, very conservative author who wrote a book about what it was like to train with the Detroit Lions of the NFL. And he wrote a very popular book, did George Plimpton. So now news directors all around the country wanted local sportscasters to participate in certain sporting events. So here it was with the Atlanta Flames at the time. They played at the Omni in Atlanta. And so the idea was for me to suit up and learn how to be a nice hockey player, which was a complete disaster, a complete failure. First of all, I had not been on skates. I couldn't stand up straight. I was falling down the whole time, but it made for an interesting video. And what is somewhat more interesting was, again, the motorcycle jump. In 1977, there was at Atlanta Fulton County Stadium a motocross event, and I was going to be the halftime entertainment, again, with the George Plimpton theme in place. I had never even coming from California, never been on a motorcycle, and the bottom line is it rained that night, so the dirt track, this corkscrew intro to the jump itself was muddy. So here I am on a motorcycle, and the station, WXIA 11 Alive was the name of our news program. They had hired somebody to teach me how to ride and drive a motorcycle. And again, that was done on a sunny day, on flat ground, and not any kind of mud caused from the rain that evening at the stadium. And so I could hardly get the motorcycle in the proper gear. I had also drank a Coke can full of tequila to calm down. This was all part of what was going on that evening. And you got to remember, this was a redneck audience. They were laughing and cheering when the jump totally failed. I could hardly get any steam going, any volume. The volume was all with the Coke can full of tequila, and I was as wasted as can be, and couldn't drive in the rain, and couldn't drive in a muddy track, and couldn't corkscrew up to make the jump. So over the edge of the jump, I fall with the motorcycle, injure my left arm, and that was it. And again, nothing but laughter coming from the redneck crowd, a southern crowd, for this motocross event in which I was halftime. So it was the skating on ice with the Flames was a failure, and of course also a failure was the motorcycle jump that never really took place that night at Atlanta Fulton County Stadium in 1977. And plus, I was eventually fired from that job anyway. They referred to me as a Yankee, even though I was from the West Coast originally, but they referred to me as a Yankee because, let's face it, Georgia, a red state, and also Atlanta, very cosmopolitan, very metropolitan, very much a very contemporary, diverse city, but there is Atlanta and the rest of the South. So when the skating didn't work out and when the motorcycle jump didn't work out in Atlanta, I heard from the crowd from the rest of Georgia outside Atlanta.
Nowhere else will you hear a story about a 10-minute ramble question to Darryl Strawberry, skating with the Atlanta Flames, and doing an Evel Knievel-style jump, except on the Me Here, You There podcast, with the legend, Steve Summers.
And I'll say one other thing. These, with the skating and with the motorcycle, this came from Sacramento, where successfully, well, sort of, I rode on the hood of a stock car through a wall of fire at Sacramento Raceway. And they lit the wall of fire, which was planks of wood that had been cut so that on impact from the car coming around the oval track, the wood would break very easily. The trick in this stunt was that in between each plank of wood was hay. And what was supposed to happen was maybe 30 to 40 seconds before the car coming around the track is to hit this wall of fire. You're supposed to light the wood, light the hay and the wood, maybe 30 to 40 seconds before the car is to come by and go through this wall of fire. Well, they didn't light the hay and the wood until about 5 seconds before the car was to make impact. I'm on the hood of the car, face down, no windshield, so my feet were inside where the windshield would have been placed. And I'm not wearing any asbestos clothing. I'm wearing polyester pants. I'm wearing gloves and a helmet. Everything else was regular civilian clothes. And again, polyester pants. Well, they lit the wall of fire, the hay, and the cut wood. They lit it too late. And so the car hits all the flame, right away. If you light a match, right away it goes woof, and then you can run your finger through it. But if you kept your finger on the match that was lit, you'd burn yourself. So the idea was, with the gasoline poured on the hay, to do it 30, 40 seconds before the car hits the wood and the hay, and the fire goes whoosh, and then it settles down and you go right through it. Me on the hood of this stock car. And I'll never forget the name of the stunt driver who did this for a living, going to state fairs. His name was Dusty Russell. And he was a big hit doing this kind of stuff at state fairs all across the country. Well, anyway, they lit the hay and with the wood and the gasoline, 5, 6, 7 seconds before the car makes impact, I went into the big whoosh instead of a settled down fire where you go right through and it's like running your finger through a lit match. and you don't get burned because you're moving your finger through it. And the car goes right into the whoosh as soon as the wall was lit. And I suffered second-degree burns. My polyester pants completely burned away. They had to roll me off the hood of the car onto the ground and stomp away any fire that was with my pants and with my legs. I had second-degree burns. It could have been worse, that's for sure. But I had second-degree burns. And the audience that was there at Sacramento Raceway, they were cheering and laughing through the whole thing.
Emails next. Me here, you there.
Okay, we are back now to hear what you might have to say, what your thinking might be on anything me and Paulie have to say during this podcast. Paulie, what are some of the emails we did get?
Okay, so we had a few emails at meheareyouThere660@gmail.com. Here is one. This is from Robert. Robert here from the Bay Area in Northern California. Been listening to you for many years now. My question for you is, if the Knicks manage to get by the Pistons, as we suppose, do you feel that Tibbs will be fired if they lose to Boston in, say, 4 or 5 games?
No, I don't. I think because what he does with this team, for the most part, works. They may need Leon Rose to do some work in the offseason if that is going to be the case. The Knickerbockers are not expected to win a championship. I think they could if they play above expectations from a very faithful fan base. And if they remain healthy, I think they could run with Boston, but you would have to favor Boston until somebody beats them. And you got to remember again what we were talking about earlier, Knickerbockers 0-10 against the 3 elite teams, Boston, Cleveland, and Oklahoma.
Hey there, Steve. Really happy to have the Me Here, You There for my Monday morning commute. Thank you both for making them available. But once late summer comes around and football begins, will the fearless forecaster be making an appearance?
Yes, he will. And nice that somebody remembers the fearless, who has never, ever been wrong. And everybody knows Fearless came to America to escape the oppression of soccer, and that he was a member of the PTA, founded the MTA, and had a career low ERA. So the fearless forecaster, who has never, as you know, Paulie, never been wrong, will again be back during football season.
He has never been wrong. I have had the privilege of talking to Fearless over the phone, and he will return, to my knowledge. He will be back.
Yes.
Last question. This is from James on Long Island.
Okay.
Hi, Steve. For a legend like yourself in the sports radio world, I figured this question would be perfect for someone like you. I'm currently studying sports journalism in college, hoping to get into the business. What's your best advice, words of wisdom for someone in my position? What can or should I be doing to set myself apart?
Never take no for an answer. If you are interested in a career, not a job, but a career, learn to take no for an answer and use it as inspiration to prove anybody and everybody wrong if they think you're not hireable, if they think that it's not your right chosen profession. You prove everybody wrong and stay the course. Paulie, this gives me a chance. I have a book coming out in November, November 18. It is, you can order the book on Amazon. You can pre-order it, but it doesn't come out until November 18. It's memoirs, and it has the same title as this podcast, Me Here and You There. And I would like to think that for a young person thinking about getting into broadcasting for a career, that this book might inspire and encourage and support any man, any woman that does think that broadcasting would be rewarding and satisfying to pursue and to do as a career. So this gives me a chance. Thank you for your email, because it gives me a chance to plug the book. Again, from Triumph Books. It comes out November 18. My memoirs, Steve Summers Here and You There. Well, thank you for your emails. Thank you for your response and your feedback. And you're welcome to get in touch with us. It's easy. And the email is me here, you there, 660 at gmail.com. This is Steve Summers, me here, you there.